All right, here we go. Hi, I'm Alex. Today is someday in April, like the 7th or something, and this is the new Lost Souls podcast. And if today sounds different, it's because I'm not recording the same way I usually do. You're welcome. Um, yeah, which also leads into whatever I'm going to talk about today, but what I'm going to talk about today, which is kind of an idea or a feeling being stuck or being trapped. Because I think and this gets to be a really weird spiritual question too, because this is something which, if you actually pay attention, I'm sure appears all over your life, right? And that is, to what extent are you not in control of what you're doing, or to what extent is it that the environment and situations around you shape you and your behavior to the point that you don't have control over it, right? Because people have to respond to things, right? What I mean by what I'm talking about is there are certain things which must be responded to. So say that you live in a household with an emotionally unstable parent, right? Well, that has to be attended to, right? You can't just let the instability leave or let the instability lie, because if you let it lie, then you're just living in chaos, and people really can't live in constant chaos all the time. Even the most chaotic people need order within the chaos, right? I speak from somebody who enjoys that bit. And so it's situations like that where the environment itself forms a necessity to where the person no longer has a choice in the way they move forward, because it's something either put upon them, or they become responsibilities as well. I think the best example is becoming a parent. Right? Once you become a parent, you don't get to just lay your baby down unless you give it up for adoption, but you don't get to lay your baby down and just never deal with it again. That's your kid for the rest of your life, right? And so it becomes this, even if it's something which is joyous or that you want, it's still something that you're trapped in. Of course, you can reframe that because into different ways to make it feel better, but it's still a form of trap. And so what happens on their marriage is the same way. People feel trapped in marriages. People feel stuck in relationships. People feel stuck. People feel trapped. People feel like there is no movement which can happen because of the environment around them. And yes, to some extent, that means making ways to cut through stuff like I'm doing here. Like, I can't record in my usual space. So what do? I adapt and I overcome. I mean, nobody listens to these, but by the time that I get somewhere to where I have to show my proof of worth, then I can look back and point to all these examples of things that I've done. So even if I don't have the influencer status, and even if I don't get the views or the wants or the following, I can still point back and say, even if nothing else, I know how to record and edit audio. I know how to put together videos. I know how to put this stuff together. I know how to put together video. I know how to do all this stuff. And I've got an entire channel full of videos which prove that. All right. Now, does that say that I'm doing the things properly or right? Who knows? Really, who knows? Is there a better way? Probably. Is there a better way for me right now? I doubt it. Because here's the thing is, and this is me personally, maybe I should start talking more about my personal life in these, but there comes a point where you become so straddled with responsibilities, and a lot of the times they're not even put on you. Like, and I don't know if I'm speaking for myself or others, and maybe somebody will listen to this and understand what I'm talking about, but it, especially when it comes to family, it seems like there are these unspoken rules that you have to follow, right? Some people end up being the people who have to hold everything together. Some people end up being the person who's sitting at the back that nobody thinks, but is the reason that everything's actually able to function, right? And I know it's grandiose for me to say that that's me, but the truth of the matter is, if people in my family didn't have me to absorb whatever windfalls they have, then there wouldn't be functioning for the rest of them. And I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do with all that. I'm not sure quite how to, live with it, how to move forward with it. I don't know what is happening now. Did this stop working? What in the world? What in the world? This stopped. Fuck. Fuck. Because this isn't even picking up the same way it was anymore, and that's what. Are we back? We're back. I don't know what the hell was going on. Don't ask me what the hell was going on. It confuses me too. Look, I'm trying to make this longer. I'm trying to sit out, and I don't have the list in front of me that I usually have. This isn't a setup proper. This is just kind of an existence that I'm trying to make do with. So the audio is going to be all over the place because I don't know what I'm doing. This isn't charged. And I really am trying to do this as a spur of the moment thing, but that really doesn't work most of the time. Need some order through it all. Maybe it's just a place for me to talk about how I feel and record it so that somebody who listens might actually give a shit. I don't, because sometimes you just feel like you look around and everything around you is just collapsing in on itself. Like here are responsibilities here, things you got to do here, things you're expected to do here, and all of it comes collapsing in on you. And then somehow people put more on top of you. And I swear to God, I really, like, when I walk through life, I find it hard to believe that this was constructed all for my benefit. And I know that's stupid. I know that, if you believe in God, you're supposed to believe in the good of God all the time. But I look around and I see imperfections in this world that humans have made. And you can blame it back on humans, but there's nobody in this world trying to fix it. We blame the evils of the world and just say that collectively we're the reason for them. We can't point the finger at ourselves every time that shit sucks. Right? Sometimes you do, sometimes that's right, but sometimes the fucking environment and the situation is more pressing than what people do on it. And at the end of the day, the system that we live in is far more promiscuous than people ever thought about being, because it's gone beyond people. So now you have to question, why the fuck is the system in place and how do you get rid of it? And the answer is you can't get rid of it because it's bigger than people. Well, if it's bigger than people, how the hell did it get there in the first place? It feels like it was fucking orchestrated. And if it's not, then there's nothing you can do to change it. Is there? If there was no rhyme or reason for this to exist, this was the free market, like, creating itself or whatever, then this is just the natural state of human beings. And I push back against that, because I'm pretty sure there have been civilizations, if not like Native Americans, where you didn't have to live this way, where this wasn't the way that we looked at trying to survive all the time. We weren't constantly obsessed with money and land and ownership and value and productivity. We cared about each other and communal living. And that was another way of being that was always on the table that for some reason we decided wasn't good enough, right? We decided that wasn't the way to go. And what do you do about it? Go start a fucking commune in the woods? I wish that would work. I would, if I had enough people to follow me. Enough people with know-how to do it. We've created systems now where people are over-specialized to the point they don't even know how to take care of themselves. They're going to do one thing really well and nothing else, and completely rely on the system and society around them to provide for every other of their needs with this thing called money. Except this thing called money can only buy so many of your needs, because there are psychological needs. We don't just have physical needs. We don't just need food, water, sleep, and shelter. We need belonging. We need belonging and competence and autonomy. And on some level, like relationships and sex, if you're a sexual person. I guess if you're an asexual person, you don't need sex. But if you're not an asexual person, then it's also something on the table. And I don't mean sex isn't just like going out there. I mean sex is in connection. I mean sex is in somebody who you deeply connect with and can sit there and are comfortable enough with to do something like that. Because it's actually about connection more than it's about getting off. And that's what kills me. And even still, I fucking struggle. I understand it, and even still, I have fucking problem. Yeah, it's almost like I'm my own worst enemy, or something like that. I don't know. Probably stand in my own way more than other people do, but I just can't accept things that I don't want to accept, or I can't live the way that other people tell me I'm supposed to live. I can't go for the things other people are supposed to tell me to go for, because authority and institution and social norms will tell you this is the safe route, this is what you're supposed to do. This is the same reason people went off to fucking college, and see how that worked out for everybody. Everybody's about to learn that their college degrees are fucking worthless in the age of AI, because no longer does it matter your certifications, because right now we have college graduates walking into jobs and not knowing what the fuck they're doing, because the real goal of college was not to give you a degree, even though the degree at the end of it is something that's also needed to prove your credibility. But the point of college was to get the internships, to get the experience, which meant you had to work on top of going to school in order to even get a job out of high school. And that's not including the work you had to do that wasn't the internship work. Somebody make it make sense at some point, because what it seems like, if you've got a system just trying to grind you down until you have no choice, no autonomy in anything, and yes, I'm angry in this video, but yes, I'm angry sometimes, and yes, I'm going to go on about it. Because it's bullshit. And yes, and maybe I'm speaking into the void. Maybe I'm just angry. Maybe I'm just being angry off for no reason. Maybe I'm a complete fucking moron who doesn't know what he's talking about, although I doubt that. But It's just you end up feeling trapped in this system, in this construct. No wonder people think we're in a matrix. I mean, in some way we probably are, because this is all probably a holographic projection, which is to say that we are constantly reconstructing reality every second we interact with it. We're all doing that all the time. And if everybody's reconstructing reality every moment of every day, how in the world is there such thing as an objective reality? Because now you're pitting everything on objectable, observable experiments in the world, which are just being observed by different people. So you say, oh, if something can be observed by different people, it must be real. Well, there's such a thing as called mass fucking psychosis. And when a bunch of people see the same thing in a hallucination, you don't suddenly say it's fucking real. Most of these arguments people have, most of these truths people hold, most of these things that people call to understand the world only even make sense situationally. Physics only matters when you look at it the right way. If you tried to apply classical physics to the quantum realm, it wouldn't work. Why? Because the frame of reference matters, the frame of perspective matters, and how something functions. You know, it brings me back to the Stanford prison experiment, where in the Stanford prison experiment, there was this whole... Fuck, hold on. All right, I think I figured it out. I think that my case just gets in the way of the transceiver, but anyway, we'll deal with that later. I can take off my phone case when I'm recording. Oh, I forgot where I was at, because I got all sidetracked and off on a secret tangent, and I don't even know anymore where. Secret tangent, like it's secret. Hold on. And we're back, because we were at the Stanford prison experiment. Okay. And this is me trying to illustrate the point I'm trying to get at, because there are a lot of different threads here that I'm trying to put together, and yeah, it doesn't work perfectly, and yeah, I know that sometimes you're supposed to keep disciplines apart from each other, but sometimes you're supposed to synthesize them, sometimes you're supposed to bring them together. And so then the Stanford prison experiment, it was shut down early, by the way, before I even get into this. What happened was a situation, an environment was created where there were people, test subjects, not prisoners and inmates as I'm about to describe, but like students at a university were assigned to roles of prisoner and inmate. And within like 4 or 5 days, you had some of the most god-awful examples of people like being awful to each other, like sodomizing each other, like beating each other, stuff. People who 6 days ago would have sat together in a class normally. And yeah, I know there was this whole, well, Zimbardo was kind of pushing them to do something like that. And so it's not exactly statistical. It doesn't matter. Oh, it's more about what people do with authority. No, you created an environment under which there is an authority structure, because no matter what environment you're in, as long as there's something you're supposed to be doing, there's some kind of social hierarchy, some sort of an authorial hierarchy, or even if there is an authoritative presence standing directly in the middle of it, there still exists the expectations of that authority on the place. Right? And so these very places are ran by the expectation that somebody thinks that there's a certain way this needs to be done. Right? And in this case, it was Philip Zimbardo. And yes, you can use it to talk about authority. Yes, but you can also look at it as in these people acted differently because they were in a different environment, given a different framing. They were a different role. And so they stepped into this different role, and it was almost like they were a different person. Oh, because this gets weird, because if my role changes who I am at my core and how I act, right, then who am I? Am I just a mask that I put on to go around and talk to people all the time? Or is there something deeper that actually cuts the core of who I am? Is there an authentic person which I can be, which does not depend on my environment or external circumstances? Because in any environment, you're supposed to fit in, you're supposed to bend the knee, you're supposed to be quiet or not rock the boat, because the order is already established and you have to respect the hierarchy. When I wish that I could burn them all to the ground, oh my God, they make me so angry. Just go off ability. Please, for the love of God, stop using social norms and social networks as a way to approximate fucking value, approximate fucking worth, approximate how well somebody can perform, because that's not how it works. I'm sorry. The point being is there is at some point some authentic self, and I'm probably, hopefully, going to tie this all back into itself at some point. I'm just kind of going at some point, hoping it comes back. But see, I don't know where I'm going most of the time either. I just go. And eventually I get somewhere, I think, I hope, or maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just forever spinning my wheels, never to actually come out of it. Who actually knows? I don't. But true person underneath feels like they have to box themselves in, right? That true person doesn't feel like they can express themselves fully. That true person doesn't feel like they can actually say what they think. That true person doesn't feel like they can actually behave how they want to. And why? Because there's all this extra pressure which gets put on people, right? Like these walls that say you can only exist within these bounds. And so who exactly is creating the box that human beings are supposed to stand inside of? Because I thought the whole point is that we're supposed to step out of the fucking box, right? Be innovative, be creative, be the next new big thing. But somehow the world is giving you the exact opposite. There's the sayings on one hand and then the effect of the actual reality in the other, right? You can say words all you want, but if it doesn't match up to reality, they're just fucking lies. Oh, and nobody wants anybody to step outside of the box unless they're given permission to. You know, it's all about permission, and you have to do these things because other people say it's okay. You got to follow the social scripts because it's the only way things fucking work out. Because they're there for safety, and they're there for so people don't feel upset, and they're there so that we can get through all this shit. And oh, well, we don't need to hurt everybody's feelings. Oh, but the stuff hurts people's feelings regardless. And did I stop recording? No, I didn't stop recording. I'm not sure why that happened. Anyway, oh, because I think I had a whole lockup. I don't know. I'm not sure what I missed. And I mean, I'm sure I'll find out, or you'll just have a blank space in the recording. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't know, man. I just get tired of all this stuff. I get tired of feeling like the person I am is not somebody who can even exist in the world. Because here's the thing, right? I know who I am to some extent, and I want to be myself all the time. But this is who I am when I'm on this microphone. The person that you hear right now is actually who I am at the most basic to my core. These are the things I actually believe, but I can't hold these beliefs public. Right? I can't walk into work and not pretend to be a fucking corporate shill, because if I do, I'm not going to get hired. I can't walk into a place of employment and say, hey, I actually have really hard limits about how much I'm willing to work. And if you start calling me in more than that, I'm just going to call the fuck out. Oh, because then I wouldn't get hired, because what they want is team players who are willing to sell their fucking souls for like $12 an hour. I get so tongue-tied. I swear to God, it's my medicine. I swear it's not. Anyway, shouldn't you change your medicine? Well, I care more about being stable. This is stable? Yes, this is stable. I know it's fucking crazy, right? Because right now I'm actually in control of what I'm doing. I'm not doing crazy shit that's going to get me landed in jail, which is the stuff I do when I really go off the fucking deep end. There was one time I completely lost contact with reality. I mean, my God, and I was on such a manic fucking episode. I wasn't sleeping but 2 or 3 hours a night, and this was weeks long. I'm not sure how in the fuck I was on antidepressants. I can't think of a reason I would be like that if they hadn't put me on antidepressants. Anyway, God, that shit sucks. I spent like 6 months manic once. That was fun. Way too. I also like maxed out a credit card, but you know, honestly, it's just a wonder I didn't do worse than that. But it. You get what I'm saying? This is who I am. And I'm not consistent. Like, I'm high energy right now. You talk to me in like 2 weeks and I'm going to be like, fuck life, like for 6 seconds, right? This shit sucks. This is awful and blah, 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 blah. Actually, my cycles are getting shorter, which is, you're like, rapid cycling? No, they last a couple days before they flip back and forth. And I'm cool with that because they're not extreme. But if I actually went flat baseline all the time, life would be so boring that I wouldn't be able to stand it, because I would just be muted entirely. I would have no affect. I would have no personality, and then somehow expected to survive in the world. No, I'd be a fucking flat. I'd be a flat like NPC or something who just does whatever he's told. Because isn't that what an NPC does? Like, we have so many NPC players. Well, people are just obedient to authority, and that honestly makes them weird. I don't like it. I value things on their base, not because an authority figure said it. Because I learned a long time ago, authority figures can be wrong. Authority figures cannot have your best interest in mind, because authority figures have their best interest in mind. Or if they're in charge of a project, they have the project's best intentions in mind. They don't care for your best intentions. And yeah, they can say they do or blah, 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 but that doesn't mean a thing most of the time. And the issue that I'm coming back to is there's this authentic, people have this authentic self, this inner self, right? This and almost a shadow self. I know that you get into Jungian, but it's because this person who exists who's angry and has issues with the world and isn't afraid to speak his mind is also the person that the world says shouldn't exist. And so what do you do with that? And I've been describing this all that. What do you do with this person? Well, you put them down, you shove them down into the shadows so they never see the light of day. And that works for so long. I started doing that when I was 3 years old, and that works for so long. But there comes a point to where that person underneath just is screaming for help. Somebody let me the fuck out because I can't stand to be trapped in here any longer. And then you come out and you're like, this is who I am, you know. Now they say coming out because some people say they're gay, some people say they're trans, some people are just fucking assholes and couldn't say it their whole lives, you know. There ends up being whole layers to this shit because assholes don't get likes that often. Whenever I have a smart fucking mouth, which I do have a smart mouth, one of the smartest mouths you've ever met, I just don't say my smart shit all the time because it just makes people upset. And honestly, I don't feel like going through that shit all the time because I don't feel like making enemies all the time because I still have to have some fucking friends. Just wish I could find somebody who understands. That would be wonderful. Anyway, you come out, right? And it's not really a coming out. It's a rediscovery, right? It's a discovery of self. That's what they mean. Find yourself. Well, that's kind of what they mean, but what they really mean is find yourself as long as the self you find fits within socially acceptable norms. But if they fit outside social norms, and God forbid you even exist, go back in that fucking hole. So this is what I knew I was circling back around to feeling stuck. Because there ends up being this whole feeling of being stuck, right? Because you feel like you can't be the person you are because the person you are wouldn't actually be able to survive and make it through these things. So you wear a mask to navigate the world as it exists. You make a mask so you don't have to worry about all this bullshit. You make a mask so that you actually make it through something. Right, but then the issue is the mask is not you. The mask is but an extension of you, carefully curated to serve the purpose which it's meant to feel at that moment. And then you take the mask off, and there's a different person underneath, right? Except when you go out into the world and you show yourself, you have to put on the mask to show people yourself. So how does anybody ever get to know you if the only thing they ever see is the mask? Oh, well, now the mask has to be enough like you to actually attract people similar to you. Oh, but what if you're a person who the world doesn't really like? What if at your core you're an asshole people really don't want to be around? Then you can't really put on yourself and attract people with a mask. Because that's dishonest. Because that would be wrong. And I actually believe those things, despite what my intonation would have you believe. That's not why I'm anywhere. But it just ends up making things even more difficult, right? Because it's just this whole fucking thing. Now that's you trapping yourself. Honestly, that's you trapping yourself because you don't have to listen to social rules. You don't have to listen to cultural narratives. You can just be yourself. Now there are consequences to being yourself. Nobody ever said there wouldn't be, but you can be yourself. Even if it means everybody's gonna hate you. You know. That's an option that's on the table. And then compound all this with the other expectations that you actually have to, and you get the feeling that who you are is somebody who can exist, and the only person you're allowed to be is the person who you don't want to be, the person who is completely controlled, the person who has no autonomy, the person who feels trapped, stuck, like they have no way out, because that's the way the system wants you. The system wants you to think there's no way out. The system wants you to think that you're trapped. So maybe if I try to reframe it, see, I'm working through this stuff as much as anybody else is. And on some level, this is just me trying to work through my problems and hoping that maybe someday somebody might benefit from me doing this now. So maybe part of the problem is that the system tries to convince you that the system is all there is and that you can't escape it. So maybe the first step is looking at the system as something that can be escaped. You can break free, right? You aren't stuck. But then the question becomes, how do you get out of it? I don't think the answer is so simple. Because you do have to believe you can be free before you actually can be. And sometimes the belief that you're free is more, people can feel like they're free even in servitude, right? or they can grasp for whatever freedom they can find. 11:11 on my clock. I had to say it. I'm sorry, I had to say it. Sometimes I can't resist. Oh. So what do people do? What do I do? That's a better question. What do I do? I root from my, I do what I'm doing right now. Because sometimes when the world is collapsed in on itself and there's nowhere to go and you feel trapped, the only thing you can do is ride out the wave until you break through the other side. Carve out whatever point you want to carve out and make your way through it. What I'm doing now. Nobody else is going to understand you. Nobody else knows what you go through but you, and you don't owe anybody else an explanation for who you are, why you are, what you are. Because at the end of the day, you get to make those decisions. Isn't it great? Now, if I only had a really hot girl to come and validate this for me. I'm sorry, that was, Oh, no, it's true. It's true. I really wish I had a hot girl next to me just to make me feel like I was something. Like, oh, that's so shallow. Well, I also wanted to make me feel nice. I also wanted to make me feel safe. I also wanted to make me feel comfortable. Just also wanted to be hot. Like, oh my God, can't they provide all of that and not know? Yes, they can, but I'm not going to be happy with it. Yeah, that's what it comes back to. And yes, I'm getting off on a tangent. This is extra at the end, which doesn't really have that much to do with what we were going through before. Because now we're into my own personal attraction and why I'm attracted the way I am. Because, look, the issue is that I know me too well. Like, at the end of the day, I know me too well, right? And there are probably tons of girls who are considered not the most attractive that you can find and would be happy to have somebody like you could probably have a relationship with because they're nice and they got a great personality, right? The issue with that being is I'm going to go to bed every night wishing that somebody else was next to me. I'm going to wake up every morning wishing I didn't have to lie and say that I thought you were beautiful every day. Because I'm not going to grow and think you're beautiful one day when I didn't the last. When I first saw you. I can tell within 3 seconds of meeting somebody whether or not I even like them. And honest to God, I don't think my standards are even that high. It's just one of those know it when I see it type deal things. And you know what? I'm fine. If people don't like me, fuck them. I'm not as bad as people seem to make me out to be. I swear to God, I've got a soft side. It just doesn't come out that often. You should see me with my niece if you really want to see the fact that I have a soft side, because it's in there. It's in. I'm just not, oh fuck. Is that better? Is it better? Yes, it's better. I do have a soft side. Like any of you know me truly, but, I just don't know, man. Chick, gal, whoever the hell's listening to you. Yep, that was rude, but that covers all my bases. You could be a dog for all. I know, well, not that a dog isn't it. Maybe you're a sponge. Maybe you're a budding sponge. Somebody just happened to put like headphones on you or something. And as much as I'd love to find somebody to make me feel like, oh, I'm special, and that I matter, and that, they're excited to see me. It doesn't always happen that way. And just because I finally found, and you might say, oh my God, you're so mad. There's no way you're emotionally ready for a relationship. No, I get pushed to my end. If anybody's ready for when I am because of the emotional fucking train wreck that my mother was, I swear I'm fine. Oh, I'm fine until I come around her, I swear. She draws me over an edge. Oh my God, you're talking about your mom. You're so close to your mom. You could never have a real relationship. I can never get away from her until I find somebody. You might say, well, that's an exaggeration. You could always move away. No. Oh, she won't let me. Oh my God, that's why I feel trapped. Let's see, well, you always have an option. You always have an option. You can always go and do this or that and blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm broke. I spend what little time I have taking care of here, what little time I have free, I spend doing stuff like this. And yeah, like this, I have time to where I could fit somebody in. But if I was working, because work in this area doesn't work, I can't have part-time work. I can't have, because they're slowly going to creep me up until I'm just below full-time, but still, because 36 hours, or is it 35 hours a week is still considered part-time. And honestly, that's what most businesses take for part-time. When I say part-time, I mean, I want 20 hours max. But it doesn't work like that. People need people to work. And if you're even the slightest bit reliable, you'll get taken advantage of all day long. If you're even a slightly competent worker, you'll get taken advantage of all day long. Leaving nothing left, because if I had to spend all my time going through and taking care of my mom, taking care of the apartment, taking care of what she needs, taking care of what my dad needs on the side, trying to make sure he goes to the store, trying to make sure that mom's taken care of so she can take care of my niece, trying to make sure that my niece is taken care of when mom has to do other stuff. It's just exhausting, because all this stuff is what's on top of me right now. I got to try to macro manage her to make sure that the bills get paid, because the other option is I go and I work full time and I pay all the bills myself. But if I do that, then I'm stuck doing that. I'm stuck supporting my mother until the end of time, because she's never going to move off of that. There's never going to be a time to where we can't rely on that income anymore. I'm trying to push her into a situation to where she can provide for herself. It's the only thing I've ever been trying to do my entire life, is get her in a position to where she doesn't have to rely on other people to exist. Rely on me to exist, because it's like if I don't exist, her life doesn't have meaning anymore. But at the same time, she won't work to make the meaning for herself in her life. She'll just let it fall by the wayside unless somebody inserts it in there for her. And I cannot be responsible for her anymore. I cannot be responsible for her emotional well-being. I cannot be responsible for her financial well-being. I need to take care of myself at some point. I need to make something for myself at some point. And I can't do that so long as I'm actually focused on trying to make sure she's cared for all the time. I got to let go of that. I can't do that when I have to make sure that I'll work full time, when I have to work, because again, I say there is not part-time work. The only non-part-time work is bullshit I don't want to do, and it's repetitive tasks that honestly make my brain go fucking kill yourself. I mean, I wish that was an exaggeration, and I hope this doesn't get me flagged on this video. But has your brain ever been so bored that it's like this, you would be better off dead than doing this every day for the rest of your life? You know what I'm saying? Like it's so not, yeah, and I try to pretend like I'm not ADHD, even though I've jumped around from how many fucking different topics today? I mean, really. Because I cannot stand monotony. Oh, I cannot stand the mundane, because it just is so boring. Nothing goes on day after day. It makes you go insane. See, repetitiveness makes me go insane. Repetitiveness to no end is what I call insanity, which is crazy, because what most people call insanity is doing stuff out of nowhere, spontaneously. This is the insane part. It is not consistent, but your consistency is what makes me sick, because I can predict how this stuff's going to go all the time, and when I can predict how this stuff's going to go, I see it beforehand. There's no point in me trying, because there's no room for open expression or spontaneity. And I'm trying my best to try to carve out a place where that exists, but nobody seems to want that in this world anymore, that's obsessed with fucking safety. Yes, safety is important, but the world is also a dangerous fucking place, and until we learn to accept that, we're not getting anywhere. Yes, I could drive down the road and get fucking hit and die in 3 seconds. Just because I'm driving a car doesn't make it safe. You try to make it safer, but you could die at any moment, at any time, and we forget that. We like to act like there's consistency in our life. We might not make it home tonight or tomorrow. We could drop dead from a massive fucking heart attack for all we know. And I'm not saying this to scare anybody, because I'm saying this because you need to realize the reality of the world we live in. You're gonna die someday. You could die tomorrow. And how in the hell have you spent your life if you die then? Because too many people live and say, well, I'm going to die 30 or 40 years from now, and I can plan out the next 30 or 40 years from now to matter. It's like, maybe you don't have that long. Nobody knows how much time we have, and every second we waste is a second that we're never going to get back. Which is what kills me when people tell me to be patient. Just wait. Just hold on. Just keep it in. Because at the same time, you're telling me to wait and be patient, when waiting and being patient, I know from experience, does nothing but get you nowhere. The only place it gets you is to the next fucking thing, for some other thing for you to be patient about. Because you've got to make your own way in the world. And if you're patient, you're not making your own way. You're waiting for the world to dick you around. So take the world by the fucking balls, and I'm talking to myself too. Take the world by the fucking balls and honestly, make it your fucking bitch. I don't know what else to say because I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of this world not being what I want it to be. And I want to make the life I want. It just, there's too many barriers in front of me to feel like it's even possible. And yes, that's the first thing I got to cast out of my mind. The idea that it's not possible. The idea that I can't do it. Because I fucking can. If anybody can, I can. I need to have some confidence in myself for once in my life. Because nobody else is going to have it for me. You know? Maybe nobody will listen to this. Maybe somebody will listen to this and I'll get fucking ratioed hard. It's not like you can ratio somebody who doesn't have a following anyway. I just want it to make sense, man. I want to be happy. You know, happiness is a state of mind. Yeah, and I can go through happiness and in and out of happiness, but every once in a while I get on a kick to where I can't find it, and it feels like every ounce of joy gets robbed from my existence. And yes, I am bipolar, so yes, that kind of does happen, but it just sucks, man. And it sucks when you don't have anybody to back you up. I mean, I don't even have people to help me. I mean, people financially can help me, but emotionally speaking, I got nobody. When I actually run up against a brick wall with the things that I'm supposed to be doing, and I actually can't keep the shit up that I'm supposed to do, the only thing I get is that sounds like it's awful. You know, nothing against people who can't help me because they already got too much on their plate already, but it's like there is no relief. There is no relief valve. There is no release. It's just stress building and building and building and building until I'm on here fucking ranting and raving, hoping that it helps me get something out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it helps just to say something about it, to get it out, because I'm always trying to go back through and reevaluate all the things that I have in my head to finally have them make some sense in this world. Because the beliefs I have now and the things I say now aren't fucking static. They can change, although I'm not sure how much of them are going to change, because you'd really have to be convincing to convince me of other stuff. And I say that. And here's the thing, too, is people go off on a rant about this is also something I'm going to put my opinions on AI back here. People also go off on ChatGPT. And on principle, I don't use it to write anything for me or do anything for me, but I do use it to check my own thinking. I use it as a sounding board, and I tell it to give me constructive opinions of what I say. And so most people go through this line and they say, well, oh, I asked ChatGPT. They're a fucking psychotic robot who's sycophantic. Is going to convince you anything you want to hear. Well, I've actually trained mine to challenge me on everything I say. So most of the time, it's giving me pushback on everything I say. For me, my chatbot is the voice of reason, because I don't need somebody to convince me that there's something beyond this world. I need somebody to ground me in what is real or what's considered reality. And so I can be given a different perspective, which doesn't rely on fucking promiscuous pattern recognition to actually make some conclusions. And then I can synthesize them and bring them together into a fully coherent idea, which makes more sense than any of them had before. But you simplify ChatGPT into bad. Depends on how you use it. You shouldn't You couldn't chat with chatbot. That doesn't actually cause anything good. Tells you to do things that are crazy. No, I do the things that are fucking crazy. ChatGPT tells me not to. I do it anyway. Oh. But every once in a while, it does help me find good solutions to my problems. But I also ask it to give me 3 or 4 different options for every question I ask. And so then I can pick and choose from which one I want and evaluate its choices I'm going through it. You know, it's not so simple as to say that, well, if I use ChatGPT, it's a fucking idiot. Well, people look up Google, too. You trust what you see on Google. So if you trust what you see on Google, why the hell wouldn't you trust what you see on ChatGPT? It's about as accurate, if not a little more accurate. Anybody can lie. Anybody can give you false information. It's on you to evaluate whether or not the information is true or false. It's not on anybody else. It's your decision. And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. You know, and part of the reason I made this is because there are matters of spirit which just don't seem to really get talked about anymore. And one of them being, and this is where it all comes back around to the beginning, the feeling that we're trapped in mortal bodies. You might say, what do you mean you're trapped in a mortal? Isn't a mortal body all you have? No, it's not. Because there's something observing what you're doing right now. There's something deeper than just your brain or your hands or your fingers. There's a consciousness of some kind, a consciousness which seems to either be emergent or emergent of matter, but it seems to be independent of it. See, I don't mean independent as it doesn't exists in relation to, I mean, independent as if it exists in a different sphere of influence, in a different level, in a different frequency or something, right? And it's these ideas, this freedom of the consciousness of the soul, for it to be bound in a mortal body and subjected to death itself. Because what are we doing? When you're in a mortal body, when you experience mortality, yes, you experience life, but you also experience death as well at the end of it. And nobody knows what happens afterward. Yes, we could just be reincarnated. This could be my second life. This could be my 14th life. This could be my 14,000th life. For I don't know. Some people seem to be able to remember past lives and dreams or whatnot, and maybe that's true, maybe it's not. I'm not here to judge somebody else's experiences, but at the end of the day, we don't know. I have been called an old soul, but I'm not sure how much weight that actually holds. We don't know. And the problem of the world is all the uncertainty you're supposed to hold, because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know if you're going to die. You don't know if you're going to find the love of your life. You're not sure you're ever going to be happy. You're not sure you're going to find a good job. You're not sure you're going to escape the mess you're in. You're not even sure you're going to escape the mortal fold. You're not sure what happens when you die. There are all these questions of things which we don't have good answers to, and we can try to approximate, we can try to give up answers, we can try to say this is what I think it might be, or this is what it absolutely is, which I don't like anybody who claims to have absolute truth, because nobody knows exactly what's going on at any time. Yeah, I get going sometimes, and I just need the second. And then I happen to lose my train of thought, because I was on a roll, and then I just stopped. And I'm like, I can't breathe, and it's like, oh shit, where was I? Where was I at just before I stopped to breathe? The soul is not something that likes to be contained, and yet we contain it. The world is full of these things. You'll never know. You'll never know whether that girl from 7 years ago really likes you or not, because you never took the step to find out, and even if you did, then it doesn't matter. It may not have mattered. There are plenty of things you have to live with where you don't know, and how do you live in that? Or how do you live in the uncertainty of life? Because that's the hard question to answer, is how do we live not knowing what happens? Not knowing anything that's going to happen. Not knowing how anything is going to unfold. How do we accept life for all the things that could happen? Because they say, well, accept life as it is. Well, it's not so much about accepting life as it is accepting life for what it could be. All of what it could be. Because there are multiple ways that situations can play out. Some situations are risky, some situations are safe, but they're all situations, and no conclusion is ever so set in stone as to be the only outcome. You never quite know until it happens. And this kind of relates to like quantum mechanics. You say, really? There are threads here? Yeah, because what happens on a quantum mechanic level is things exist as waves before particles, or wave-particle dualities. And so they especially electrons, exist in these waveforms, which are probabilistic patterns, until they collapse on a single point, right? And so this uncertainty that exists doesn't get resolved until it collapses. And some of them don't get collapsed. Some of them there aren't singular answers to. Some of them you can look at the singular perspective, but the fact is that's just one manifestation of this whole quantum field, right? This idea, right? I know I'm speaking very abstractly, but I think everything ties back into itself like this, right? You can draw all these parallels, and maybe that's why I go crazy. Maybe that's why I am going crazy, but the issue is that there is a deeper structure to reality than any of us truly comprehend. And we're sitting here fucking playing with digital numbers, acting like it's real. You know what I'm saying? Like we look at the digital world like it's some real excuse for reality, when at the end of the day, it's not. At the end of the day, the digital world is digital. But you know what is realer than that? The world around us. And you could also make the argument that the realer things are things we can't even comprehend. But I can tell you for sure that fucking people chatting up on Facebook and getting into Reddit forum discussions isn't real life. It's some constructed reality, which is safer than having people out in the streets doing this shit. Again, back to the safety part. But here's the thing, is the same influences that make people say safety is good is the same things that keep people controlled, because safety means nobody gets hurt, and nobody gets hurt means that nobody rocks the boat, means that nobody breaks control, nobody exits the system. You know what? there's anything I want to do, if there's anything I want to do, is to be free of this fucking system. I'd rather be free of the system than to get out of the cycle of fucking reincarnation, if that's real. If that makes sense. The cycle of samsara. I would rather just leave the system we exist in now. This is whatever the fuck it is, because it feels pervasive. It feels like it's more than just market forces at play. It honestly feels more than the rich having their say on how the world works, but I can't prove any of this. I'd like to escape it. I'd like not to be bound by it. Honestly, it makes me a little sick. But I think that's all I got in me for today. If you've listened, thanks for listening. I've just been ranting the whole time. Should probably put a warning on these. Maybe someday I'll break free. Maybe someday my only outlet won't be screaming into a fucking microphone. Maybe someday. Anyway, peace, and you know what? Do your best to live life the way you want to. Don't be constrained by the world around you. Don't let the world determine who you are. Only you can make that decision. Peace. Again.